Steve, I'm prompt today because I've got a video game to play. Okay, let's go. What
I'm
do you?
excited. I'm excited for you.
Thank you, thank you.
Have you haven't played yet? You have one to play.
No, I have played. I have been
Okay.
playing. And
Oh,
like I
we'll
said,
get so
this
we're
podcast is interrupting my video game playing time.
well. We'll keep
No,
it effective then. This is
it's
halftime.
it is not. It is. This is my number one priority for this evening.
You know.
Spending time with you, Mr. Samsel.
Look at that. Look at
Um,
that.
this is the Stuff Summer Says podcast
Steve.
with Steve. Steve, we have a bunch of stuff to catch up on. Not really a bunch, but a decent amount. Um, we do have a whiteout game, which I confused you by because I think you were busy working today. And when I texted
Actually
you,
doing work. Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
very proud of you for doing work today. So we do have that to discuss. Um, we have a video game to discuss. Of course, the college football video game is out. I've been playing for a little bit this evening, and then but you the main bread and butter of today's episode, if you will, was a question that you came up with, and I'm calling it Steve's Seven, if you
yeah.
will.
Okay. I was calling the stuff Summer said something, but okay,
Okay,
we'll
all
take
right.
that. I'll take that.
Yeah,
Whatever.
we'll go with
We got
Steve
seven
Seven.
things.
So you asked essentially seven things that we're looking forward to, excited. I think interested by as we approach Penn State's football season.
With 7 Saturdays to go before the season.
Okay, that's why you picked seven. I couldn't
That's why I
remember
picked
why you
seven.
picked seven, but
Yep.
I knew it was. I'm proud of you for doing the math. Um, any other housekeeping before we get into it?
No, the podcast has a name, right? Did we do that
Then we
right?
already did that part. We're good.
Okay, never mind. Then we're good.
We're
Let's
good.
get at it.
We're okay. Um, let's start with the news. Let's start with the news, and then we will kind of go into the seven things. I think this will be a good segue. Um, big news of the day is, of course, that Penn State has finally announced when its whiteout will be and all of its other promotions. I should have pulled up the full list, so I'm going to do that while I vamp here a little bit. But the main headlines, if you will, are a whiteout against Washington, a helmet stripe out. We have to find a better name for this against Ohio State, and then UCLA will be the stripe out. So those are your three what to wear assignments for the season. Then Bowling Green is the Thon game. Kent State is military appreciation. My iPhone wants to do an update. I don't want to do an update right now. And then Maryland is senior day. I think that gets all the home games out of the way. I feel like I'm missing one. Oh, Illinois is homecoming. Yes, which we already knew that. Okay, let's talk about the whiteout first. I think I a livable pick, right? Like I'm happy with it. I am. It's a new opponent. It is a team that went to the college football playoff championship game that last year. It will be a completely different team between a new head coach and largely an entirely depleted roster of seniors and stuff. But again, it's a new opponent, and I wanted either UCLA or Washington, I think is what I said, and here we are with Washington. So I think it works out well. I think this to me, this initially indicated it's going to be a 3:30 or 7 o'clock game. Audrey Snyder kind of tweeted that sources told her it won't be at noon, so that's at least not a noon game that you're going to have, so that's good. Um, yeah, I think if you were anxious about the whiteout for whatever reason, like, and going back to like them not planting their flag in it, if they're gonna have to pick it based off of the TV gods, which is dumb, as Steve has explored on this podcast, I at least think, yeah, I think this is a good game to do. Like it's Ohio State's tired, UCLA or Washington you could have gone either way, and I think Washington just makes a little bit more sense.
Yeah, I think we both, patting us both on the back until the game time's actually announced. We both kind of hinted at it or had it in the back of our mind when we did our game time picks, right? Like, you said 4, I said 7:30. They don't have a home NBC game yet, right? So or do they? No, they
No,
could. Homecoming could be, right?
yes, homecoming could be,
Um,
yeah.
but yeah, it's the right pick for all the right reasons. And I think Penn State was right to say, hey, this is our game, our event. This is when we're going. Yeah, I think we knew from Michael Mulvihill about a month ago, and we talked about his thing that the West Coast teams aren't going to play noon games when they come east. So that was helpful in this decision. And I guess the only thing that could be, we used to be what, end of October with the no night starts, but that's, you know, out the books because, money. So yeah, it's going to be 3:30, maybe four, right? And or seven, right? 7 or 7:30, whatever. So yes, it's the right call for all the right reasons. And the whiteout is an event on its own. It'll be that against Washington because Washington may not be great this year, but it'll still be fun. And I don't know what the name for the helmet stripe backup game is. Maybe it's the wah wah whiteout. Like it's just like we're trying to give them something else that still looks sort of white. Um, so yeah,
Um, I'm just gonna throw the grenade in here right off the bat. How would you feel, well, I think you already have Peacock access, but how would you feel if the whiteout was on Peacock?
God, that'd be funny, huh?
That'd be great.
People would be up in arms. I texted you earlier today, our Penn State fans elite, right? Like, and you defended fans, and I think you're right. I think they're good fans. They're loud, but they're entitled fans. Like this whole thing about when the whiteout is, and like it's going to affect how hard they cheer for the team, and then they have a birthright for the whiteout to be at 7:30 at night against Ohio State. No, and I think I haven't dived deep enough into it, but it's right because the numbers are there. Penn State on its own doesn't drive viewership. It's not. You're not going to get 9 million people for the big Penn State game against another team. You're going to get 5 or 6, maybe 5.5 against Washington. Ohio State and Michigan drive more viewership than Penn State. I don't know, for Penn State fans to like complain about the whiteout, when's it going to be? Hey, tell your team to schedule it. Don't worry about what the TV folks are. Schedule it. Go be fans. It's kind of like the starting on the road. Line them up and let me play them whenever they are. This is kind of the same thing. But I'm excited for it. Like it'll be those Washington's uniforms under the lights. Like I mean, they won't be their home uniforms, but that'll be kind of a fun different color to see there.
Yeah.
So it'll be good TV.
I think here's where I'm at with it. I feel like if we want to keep with the like as the world turns of the drama between the Big Ten media rights holders and Penn State's athletic administration slash fandom of wanting to avoid the noon games. I think the funniest outcome here is like, okay, we will give you your night game, but it's gonna be on Peacock. Like, I just think, and I think
Oh wow.
I think it's there's not a chance of it happening, right? Like that's how I feel
No,
about it.
no, because if homecoming ends up being a night game, I don't know that it is, but if you get NBC in there earlier, because they already said homecoming wasn't going to be noon, right? It's going to
Right.
be 3:34, 7:30. So if it ends up as a late game on NBC, like NBC will be here once this season.
Right, but remember, this game can't be on NBC because, well, it can't be a 7:30 NBC game because this is the night that Notre Dame and Florida State
Oh,
play each
never
other.
mind then. Oh yeah, then
So
3:30.
that's why, like, I think this is more of there's
So
a
it is
higher
3.
probability of this game being on Peacock than I feel like most people would bat an eye at. Like, it just look at what NBC has done with Peacock with the putting specific NFL games on there. And obviously that's the NFL, and I'm not comparing Penn State whiteout to the NFL in terms of viewership, of raw outside viewership of what it would get per se. But the tactic is to get you to subscribe to Peacock. They have a pretty deep, Comcast has a pretty deep base in Philly, Eastern PA and Western PA, from what I understand. They're coming more into Central PA. I know that they're big in Washington as well. Like, I
Yeah.
just think it's
Now the more I think, no, 3:30 CBS, right? Like that's
okay.
what it is,
All right, thank you for talking me out of
right?
it.
Like we're both wrong. You had 4 on something. I had
I had
7:30 on, but
four
I
on
forgot that there was.
Fox Sports
Yeah,
One, but
but
the
I forgot
problem
that was the night we have Notre Dame, right? It's 3:30 on CBS.
the problem with that game is like it's like it could kind of go one of two ways. It could be a pretty important game in the schedule, or it can kind of be a meh game, particularly coming after that Ohio State game.
Well, it'll be
Um,
that, right? Like if they beat Ohio State, it's going to be, oh, this is the trap game. This is the
yeah,
game they can't afford to lose after the big win. And if for some reason they lose to Ohio State, it's like, oh, they got to get this one to get back on track. Nobody expected them to beat Ohio State anyway. Can't lose 2 in a row. So there's your 2 storylines for that week in November. But
I've already written them. Um,
well, they
no,
have though. We should probably bet on that, right? Like that'll happen. But yes, I think it's the right game at the
okay,
right time.
all right, okay. Well, let's go back to the helmet game. Helmet strike, whatever they're calling it. I get it, but why not go back to the blue out? Or I don't know. Like maybe like there's a small sense of me that said if you told Penn Staters had nothing to wear, like carte blanche on what they can wear to the Ohio State game, I
It'd still be
think
pretty white.
95% of them are going to wear white.
Because that's been a learned thing, right? Like except for like they know for big games, it's gonna be white on the road, right? It's almost, wear your white
Yeah.
fans, right? They get the little thing and whatever else. I had that discussion, gosh, 15 or 17 years ago with Guido, actually, when I was writing a story about this. Said, hey, why don't you just sell like white shells? Like white in every game. If the whiteout is such a thing, why can't it be every week? The fans are in white. And that's what we do at Penn State. And he's like, no, it's a tribal mentality. Like it's got to be once a year, exciting, special. And I guess I agree, but like I think Penn State fans have pretty well adopted, hey, it's a big game when I'm wearing white. So I think if you gave them a choice, and they are, everybody except like the students and the people in the north end zone are going to be wearing white for that game too. So
Right.
unless the people in the end zones protested and made it a whiteout, maybe
No,
there'd be like
it's the rich people. It's not the people in the end zone.
oh, it goes sideways.
It's the
I thought they
50
switched
yard
it
line
last year.
people. No,
Okay.
no.
Okay, never mind.
So I don't know if you could. I have a joke there. I'm not going to say the joke. Um, I'm not going to say it. I'm not going to say it. I'm not going to say it.
Good.
Okay.
Next thing.
All right.
Keep out of
Um,
trouble.
I feel like I feel fine with the stripe out. I don't know. I feel good about the whiteout. I do. So, all right, we spent 10 minutes on that. That's enough of that. Let's get to your 7 thing. So, do you wanna pull up? What was your question again? How did you phrase this question?
I said 7 things. I didn't know if we were going to do numbers. I did letters because I went into my
Oh,
remedial elementary school
okay.
teacher, budding cue card person drawing, and my first one was a W
Oh my God, he's got
for the
visuals for
whiteout,
us. If
right?
if
Like
you
for
are
what? If you're a listener, you're
listening,
screwed. If you're viewing, you've seen this is some quality elementary school W on the flashcard there. So whiteout was one of my 7.
this is like I feel like I'm watching the weirdest episode of Sesame Street.
That's what you get. That's how we're going to get younger viewers.
Why are you excited about the whiteout? You just are.
I just had it on my list that it was something that was gonna happen probably this week before me. Like so, I was looking forward to.
Okay.
It's the biggest. It's the biggest off-field news of the leading into the season, almost in some ways for the
No.
fans. It's what a subset of vocal people online care about.
I don't know if it's my number one thing on my A, if you will, or
Yeah.
W, whatever letter we're going with.
I know I'm gonna fix up my cards now. So I know what
Uh,
I'm planning.
one of the things that I'm most excited about is the biggest offseason story in my opinion is will the
Okay.
wide receivers work out?
Okay.
That is I think that is the biggest question mark going into this season. I think more so than the the coordinators. We saw what Drew Aller can do. I think that's the thing we think about with this offense, right? Like last year, aside from 2 games, they pretty much put up points at will. It's just it was the 2 games that matter most, and can they kind of turn that corner? Um,
So
and
how do you?
go ahead.
So going into the season, how do you gauge that? Like how will you handle your enthusiasm level? Because last season, going into the season, they had acquired a wide receiver. They were, wide receivers are going to make a difference, and then it turned out not so much.
Let me think about how I want to say this. It's not that I don't. It's seeing is believing. I think that is
Okay.
how I am very much approaching this entire season. Of I know about. Again, I know that Penn State has probably 9 wins, 9 games that they should win. Can they win the other 3? Or what's going to happen in those other 3? And I think that is what is different about this group of wide receivers. I think the storyline with the wide receivers this year is, like last year it was like you said, we got this guy, he's going to be a game breaker, and then he wasn't. And who's going to be the number 1 wide receiver? It might be Keandre Lambert-Smith, particularly after the first game, and now he's gone. This year it's, we've got this chip on our shoulder because nobody told us that we can do anything. And I don't know. I don't know if there's the other thing is there's just too many variables with the offense at play. Like I don't think we've seen Drew's full potential, and I don't think we don't know what Andy Kotelnicki's full potential will be in the Big Ten because the Big Ten is not the Big 12. But I'm excited about him because statistically, I can look at the underlying stats that you would pay attention to, um, and see where those go. So, all right, that was my number one.
Okay, this goes with yours.
Okay,
Another letter of the alphabet.
okay, P.
It's a P because there's only one Peter on the roster, and he's a wide receiver. He's a freshman, Peter Gonzalez from Pittsburgh. So I am
Harkening
sucking
back.
up to former podcast host
Yes.
Pete Gonzalez. And Peter apparently has had some preseason good camp, according to his father. I talked to him a couple weeks ago. So I'm interested to see if the freshman hits the field.
Okay, I
True
like that.
freshman receiver.
I
That's
like
all.
that. I appreciate that. My I'm just gonna hold up the two sign at this point. I don't know. That I think in a lot of ways, Nick Singleton and Katron Allen hit a sophomore slump. But I don't. I think there were just so many other problems going on with the offense that nobody really wanted to talk about it. Um, so I'm interested to see how they bounce back. That is another thing. I think they can, and I think pairing it with a new coordinator that his ability is to get people that are speed demons or quick or that need to have the ball, get them the ball. Like, how's he going to do that? I'm excited about that. Okay.
I think
Okay.
it's good. That sounds good. Very
Yeah.
nice.
Fine.
Okay, so I got to come up with something else in the list of cards. It's like Uno. Which one am I going to play now? I'm going to play the stadium one. An
H.
H for hiccups. Game day presentation hiccups.
Ooh.
Like we
He's
got,
spicy today, folks.
well, that first game always feel, and again, I won't be in there this one, but like, it always feels like the first game of the season. We've talked about this before. They're figuring out what they're doing because whether personnel changes over, whether they're doing game day, they should hit the ground running this year, right? Like there shouldn't be. They've had the two announcer thing. They've done some other stuff, but there's going to be there's going to be new, I assume, sponsor acknowledgments to share and things like that. The second ribbon board thing is
Just
going to be in
exciting.
there and whatever. So they have a new toy to play with. So I think hiccups just to see how, again, snobby by us, snobby by me, how game day presentation and whatever, maybe spicy, but if it goes, I hope it goes smoothly. My track record with first games of the season as in-game entertainment and game day presentation has not always been the case. So H for hiccups for me.
H for hiccups. I respect that answer. I enjoy that answer. I am interested to see how this whole what the hell this deal is about this super ribbon board that I keep hearing about. Um, I don't know. Poorman posted a couple of things about it today, and like how it is going to be over the south end zone. I just think they're just going to put more ads on it. I don't think it's going to enhance any of my in-game viewing experience at all. Maybe they'll put
Yeah,
stats on it. I don't know.
maybe. I mean, I guess that's the other thing, right? You have more of it, but is it going to be serving the fan
It's
or
that's
serving?
really way up there too. I mean, I guess you're already kind of looking up there with the scoreboard, but that's way up there for me, quite literally. Okay, I'm gonna go. My number three thing on the list is actually a person, and it's Tony Rojas. But I think I'm gonna expand this out to kind of really the defense in general because I think I was anxious about kind of some of the losses that Penn State suffered on defense, kind of going into the off season. But now that I think about it, I'm not unsure that this defense might not be as bad as last year's defense or as good. You know what I'm saying? Like I think
Mhm.
there's a chance they could be just as good. Um, I think I'm very excited to kind of see year three of Abdul Carter and what that looks like with his position move. Tony Rojas, I think, is finally a player that, uh, at least maybe partly because I live in the DMV, that we've been hearing about for a while and is like supposed to have this big year and hopefully can. Still got a King brother left. KJ Winston. I feel comfortable in the defense, so I'm excited about the defense, but I'm leading that with Tony Rojas.
Nice. Okay, I'll play. This is like Uno. Like what to play next?
Yeah.
I will play off of Tony Rojas, which means on-field success, which means E for the word that has haunted this program for
There it
6 or 8 years, right? Like elite. Like what's going to
Oh,
be the moment when people? Oh, I don't know. See what your word is. When people think, oh, yep, this is the season, or the train goes off the tracks and they like play poorly or lose to somebody, and it's clearly like we're not elite.
I can I come back to this point? I want to come
Yep.
back. I'm putting a pin in this point because this is one of my final points. Okay, we're skipping all of that. We're just pretend that we're doing all this in order. Um, I am excited about new opponents. You've got three relatively new opponents coming into town, or well, two coming into town. One being on the schedule out in California. I was out in San Diego last week for work, and I saw a couple UCLA sweaters, I saw a couple Oregon sweaters, and I was like, and like USC sweatshirts and shirts, and I was like, oh yeah, this is Big Ten country now, and it's like kind of weird, but I'm excited about that. I think that goes back to the whiteout, right? Like that's why one of the reasons why we are excited about the whiteout to see everybody or a new face, kind of face that opponent.
Cool. Okay, so on field competition, I'm going to go with A for on field ads. I want to see who's there. I want to see who they
Mm-hmm.
utilize, what they do with it. So maybe ads and sponsorship, like who the new sponsors are, but who ends up on the field if they do it. And again, if they don't, man, there's almost got to be a compelling reason why they don't, right? Because either they either they couldn't afford to find somebody who wanted to pay it.
Or they don't because of principle.
Yeah, but I think they've already said, nope, stuff's for sale. Like, so I don't know.
I'm interested in it. I think the Playfly thing is going to be a big impact on fan experience, from what I understand, and I'm interested to see how noticeable some of those changes are. And I do feel like this is, in a lot of ways, like last year, and maybe it's just because of Learfield out and Playfly in. Like last year didn't necessarily, like it still kind of felt like the Sandy Barber era of some of the stuff going on. We got a little bit more of the Pat Craft era. So I think it's kind of like the next iteration of that, and I think a lot of that does come from the ads. I think that's why they're putting this super ribbon board in. Uh, Again, I'm still. There has to be a line. There has to be a line of people lining up to sign a contract with Pat Craft to say Beaver Stadium at Hershey's Field or whatever it's called field. Yeah, I think that's a good one. All right, my fifth one, in a similar vein, kind of related to Pat Craft. This is, in my mind, Beaver Stadium's last year as we know it. And I know that the stadium's gone through really three core renovations between a updated suite area. Then you've got the original expansion, north end zone expansion, and then you've got the south end zone expansion. I was I was what 2002 2001 when that opened, right? So I was 6, 7, somewhere in there when those. So I think there. I think that's something to think about this season as you kind of be a fan. It's like this is the last time you're going to look around and see Beaver Stadium this way, and you might be able. This might be the last season you might be able to afford the tickets. Like, like it's Beaver Stadium in the future after this season is going to be a very different stadium. It's going to feel brand new there in a lot of ways, and I'm interested, maybe anxious a little bit about that. But yeah, I think that kind of goes hand in hand with the ads.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I'm going to take the ads and the money and go one step closer to home to the players and do N for
Oh my
NIL.
god.
I would like to know, this is what, and I don't want to know dollars. I would like, and if I've missed it, feel free to point it out if you're listening, or if Darian, I've missed it. I would like to know how NIL works. Like, I would like to know if a player who has an agreement, do you get a check once a month? Do you get it whatever? Like, how does that process work? What are you responsible for? I don't want to know your dollar figures, but as you do this, who do you deal with? Is it somebody from like the Happy Valley United? Is it somebody else? Like, how do you say yes? How do you say no? Do you just say yes? Do you say no? Just practically from the player's side, like how do they deal with this stuff? And how does it happen?
Yeah, there's got to be somebody. So there's got to be kind of two avenues from it, or at least that I think about it. There is the Happy Valley United just cutting the check effectively, And then I think there's the one-off stuff of like Fleming doing the was it Blaze Alexander commercial,
Mhm.
um, and those I feel like those are more just like straight up like you would like I work for an agency, we pay influencers to do things like it's just like create this content for us and we'll give you a $5,000 check, here you go, we're done, like and we'll post it and that's it. Um, yeah, I'd be curious. I'd be curious how that works, and I would be curious how that works, not just for football, but how that works for like other athletes. And I would be curious with football in particular. Like, do you shut that down? How much do you shut that down during the football
During the
season?
season, right?
Right. How much are you focusing on you, and how much are you just worrying about all of that stuff in the
Or is the off day the off? Like, is the off day now the NIL day? Like,
right,
that kind of stuff. Just
right,
I don't want to get into their checkbooks and money per se. I'm just curious how it works. Like we think we knew how the scholarship thing worked. We think we knew how the model worked for go to class, do this, get
right,
this, but that's not the model anymore. So
right.
I'm just curious.
Right. All right, number six. And probably because it's quite literally 103 degrees here, but I'm just excited for fall in general. Like I am excited for like that quintessential collegiate football feeling of a Saturday morning and just hanging out with friends, hanging out with people, hanging out with Steve. All of that. So that's my sentimental one.
Very nice. Oh, sentiment. This played out really well. I'm going to sentiment too.
Okay, this is your last one, right?
This is my last
Okay.
one. My last card. It's not the last piece of the alphabet because I had to play the W early, but sentimental T for friend of the show, Brian Tripp, no longer doing the pregame and postgame shows.
Mm.
I think that's a big, in our world, in terms of the media presentation of the game, that's a big hole or shoes to fill somehow, however they choose to do it. And Brian worked his tail off and, had the production thing set up in a case. And the case was also his studio. It would take like two people to do what he did, along with the sideline reporting. So I'll be interested to see what they do in terms of creating that content, who it is, and how they serve viewers because Brian won't be there.
Brian will be doing the radio stuff, but he won't be doing the like go PSU sports stuff that he's been doing for the last few seasons. Tough shoes to fill, I think, is the other thing there.
Yep, exactly.
Because
Yep,
he and it was Mitch Gerber, I believe was
yep,
was
yep.
before him. They set the bar pretty high, and like again, I think that is a thing. Penn State fans don't realize how spoiled they are with a lot of the access. Maybe sorry, not access, but that production. Or those types of things of production, because I think fans benefit from those more than they realize. I would say uh, I always want more access, and I do think that other schools are doing that better. Um, okay, so what was the one you were excited? It was the E, right? Was it the E?
Elite. Yeah, it was
Elite.
elite, right? And
Okay.
you said you pushed it to later. So
Yeah.
here we go.
Here we go. This is my seventh. I am intrigued, excited by the drama of this season. This season might it feels like there's so much drama that can come out of this season unless they just win football games, and it's never been that simple, so it's like hard to have that proof. But this is kind of what I said like back blue white weekend, like it'll just be easier if Penn State makes the playoff, right? Like then they can hang like fans can hang their cap on they okay, James Franklin made the playoff. If they miss the playoff, or if they're 9-3 and it's a question of whether they get into the playoff, I'm excited for the drama. Like I am, and I think that goes back to like this whole elite thing. And
Shouldn't you want them to be something in O and there wouldn't be any drama, or you're not that fan, or you're not that
no,
unrealistic?
I mean I want. I have. Here's the thing, and part of this comes from I have no clue how this Penn State football season's going to go, and I was thinking about it the other day. Like we've got our preseason stuff coming within the next 3 weeks of like I gotta start thinking through how I think this season's gonna go, and I can't land on a number. You could spin a wheel and I don't know what number we're gonna get. Um, and I think that goes back to the elite thing and goes back to just what happens if Penn State doesn't make the playoff. Like, is Pat Kraft going to fire James Franklin? I don't know. Is there the money to fire James Franklin? I don't know. Who would you get? Like, it's just like there's so much chaos that could happen in this one season. It feels so pressure packed that makes this one more interesting because I don't want to say James Franklin's out of chances, but like it certainly feels like this is a borderline last chance year in a lot of ways to
Does it
prove
really?
it. But that's and maybe that's public perception seeping in, but it's like that's what I struggle with, right? Like public perception is everybody's going to be fed up with Franklin if they don't make the playoffs. If they're 9-3 and they don't make the playoffs, who are you going to get to one, pay the buyout, two, cover the cost of the coach that you can guarantee that's going to be better than James Franklin, that's not going to stunt your program back and turn it into Nebraska? Like that's really what we're at here, and that's what's so interesting to me, and that's why like public perception, I think, would be done with James Franklin if they don't make the playoffs. I don't know if that's necessarily how it plays out.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'd still be stuck on the buyout number, and I don't know. I guess it depends if they, for some reason they lose games and they lose poorly and whatever else. I don't know. You got Drew Aller at quarterback. You got talent. It's going to be fun. And for me, it's as you get for me as I'm getting older for it, right? Like I know the players less, right? I don't care about recruiting for the most part. Like whoever's in the uniform is who I'm cheering for if I'm cheering. So it is kind of it's reality TV, right? It's whatever shows up on Saturday on my TVs that I'm kind of watching and kind of paying attention to during the week with other stuff. So yeah, I think there'll be drama from the start. I mean, I think West Virginia should be a win, but it'll be interesting. You
Yeah,
go on the road, you do whatever else, and you come home for that little homestand of win, 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 through some stuff until the games really start to matter. And it's horror, the football people are like, oh, you can't say that 1-0. Well, yeah, the fans can't say that. So,
yeah.
um, but for me, it's the ancillary stuff. It's the stuff that makes the show. It's the ads around the show. It's the way they support it. It's the way they do it, and that's what makes it fun. So yes, cool fall weather and be able to talk about that would be a nice
Yeah.
change of pace.
No, I'm excited. Yeah, I feel like this is going to be an interesting year for Penn State football, and that is the product, and that is the product. I think, in a lot of ways.
Right?
Yeah, I'm interested to see. I really feel like people have not talked about the stadium thing maybe enough quite yet. Um, did we get everything there? Do we feel good about everything there?
Yeah. So are you excited for the drama as you were for the game, the video
Oh,
game?
I am so excited about the drama, but I am equally as excited for the video game. Like I it's funny how like I got back from the trip and then got back from this work trip and I was like, oh, it is July. There's the SEC media day. Like it really feels like
Mhm.
it's coming, and like this is a great way to start it. This video game is a great way to start it.
So you will play tonight for a little while yet?
I have already played tonight. I will.
So more, like how much longer will you invest in it tonight?
Well,
After we're
I
done.
have a podcast to edit, Steve.
Yeah, I know.
I,
Somebody's got to get you the link. I get that.
somebody's got to send me the link. I might write tonight because I'm tired of looking at Steve Jones and James Franklin on the homepage. And we're also going to probably do our media survey this week. Um, I'm excited about that, but I'll probably play for another solid 2 hours tonight, and then a couple hours tomorrow night.
So it's
Um,
been good so far.
yeah, it feels so. The main gripe for a lot of people with them making this game was like they didn't want another. Growing up, there was always the Madden release and there was the college football release. And a lot of times, the college football release would just be the previous year's Madden in a lot of ways. So it wouldn't be as fun to play because you weren't necessarily playing a new game. All of what's fun around it is kind of like the off the field stuff of like when you build your dynasty and you recruit, etc., and build your program, and you can like now you can like tweet at recruits and like do all of this other stuff, and like they've really like amplified a lot of that, like so you can say, okay, I want to spend this much time going through this guy's social media, I want to spend this much time like getting to know their parents, like they've really thought this through, and it really in my first few hours of playing feels like they've actually thought about everything that makes college football unique. The other thing that I was very impressed with so far is like the presentation. I played, so I played a couple games as Penn State, and then I set up my dynasty. I'm going to start as San Jose State, and we played at Air Force. And there's a flyover, and then when they score touchdowns, they're doing push-ups in their military fatigues.
Mhm.
Um, they did a so far it feels like they've actually done a very nice job, and it doesn't feel like Madden, at least in the gameplay aspect as well.
Nice. And because it is real, because it's real players, right? When you talk about knowing their families, when you're seeing their social media, you're seeing their like,
So
do they actually, or
it's
how do they do
not
that? Like talking through that.
it's really you're just kind of like telling the game I want to put more interest in this kid,
Okay.
so you don't really get to see their social media. I will say like it is interesting to see the players so far, like the Penn State players. Not they definitely didn't go all in on the like mapping in terms of like Drew Aller kind of looks like Drew Aller, but it's like very generic Drew Aller.
Okay.
Um, and a lot of the other players. The other thing that's been interesting is a couple Penn State players appear not to be in it. Somebody tweeted at me a couple that they noticed. There's a guy that's like returning kicks, and his name's like Chauncey Carpenter, and I was like, "There's no Chauncey Carpenter on the read." Oh, Jalen Reed is the big one, not um, is the one barely the biggest name not in there yet. I don't think Andrew Raplia is. I haven't actually gone through Penn State's roster, but I did notice no Gabe Nwosu yet. I haven't seen him at least come through when I'm playing. So, but it is that was always the other main gripe about the video games was that it just said like QB 11 was Matt McGloin. It never said McGloin, and we all knew it was Matt McGloin. Just tell us
Right.
what it is. And I think that was kind of I know that's something little, but to have that authentically built in the game does feel a lot more official in a lot of ways. So
Gotcha.
yeah, um, no, I'm excited about it, and I'm excited about like the community that will build from it because I think people will start roster sharing and doing other things like that and kind of then you can get because all the FCS teams are not in there yet, but I have to imagine people are going to build those teams and
Right.
import them in, etc.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, so all right,
Nice.
let's
That's old guy, young guy. That's a transition to old guy, young guy. So
okay.
the game. So do the games, because I'm not a gamer, but does college football, the game, make you enjoy the game of college football more? Like, how does it
Oh, that's a
complement
good
viewing
question.
or consuming the stuff?
It's just another like I I am much more thinking about college football now in July than I necessarily probably would. Um, I don't. I think there's. I like the thing that I like about video games in general is like the thought process of utilizing a sport that I enjoy, but like I love with the baseball video games like tinkering the rosters and like tinkering the pitching rotation and things like that of like and then the situational ship of it and kind of like how you would coach through that. I've always enjoyed like that aspect of sports, so it is very much fun to like sit and think about okay, we're down by this many points. We need a touchdown here, but we only have two timeouts, and let's how will we work the boundaries? And I think
Right.
I think to me that's I know more about particularly football and soccer from video games maybe than I do watching it because I can watching it's one thing because it's pretty yes or no like this was a good thing or this was a bad thing with video games a lot of times you understand the why and I've always thought that like when we talk about like this argument over analytics like I think video games could be a big barrier in terms of tearing down that wall of like if you put a bunch of analytics in the game then kids are going to start talking about them and then it's just going to become even more second nature in the future um, for fans.
Makes sense. Makes sense. It's
So,
cool.
so,
Very cool.
all right.
Thank you.
Anything else? How was you said Arts Fest was good? Good.
Yeah, good Central Pennsylvania Festival of the
Did you,
Arts.
did you have some
You
good
know,
food?
nah, it's pretty pricey. We bumped into people. I,
Okay.
bumped into kids that Danny played basketball with, a couple of those who are now working jobs. So that's the old guy connection. And then we did go to, went to see the Corner Brothers downtown on Allen Street. And Susan's like, they're playing again at like 8 o'clock at Doggies. So we went to Doggies like old people before the line
Yeah.
and got in there and ended up walking in the door. And there's two of my students who I didn't know knew each other sitting together. So I struck up a conversation with them and then made room for some kids to sit with us, and then we were getting ready to leave, told the old people that were standing at the side, come over and take our seats, and they were so appreciative. So yeah,
Good. I'm glad you had a
yeah,
good Arts Fest.
yeah.
I haven't been to Arts Fest. Ugh. 2017, I think was the last Arts
It's
Fest.
fun. It's fun to people. I mean, if you've done it, through the years, right? You get to see the college kids who are like, how much longer do these booths go? Like
Yeah.
literally, they'll go, where
Yeah.
does this go? And the regulars who are looking forward to it, and the kids who are there at night, like because the crowd shifts, right? Like it goes. One of the students came in and said, "I said, did you walk around Arts Fest? How is it?" She said, "Yeah, all old people and hippies." Right? I'm like, well, yeah,
It's
you're going to the bars later, like that
You're not
exactly.
wrong.
So
Not wrong.
exactly. So
Um,
no, good time
I
always.
still haven't been. I still have never been out to the one. What's the other one? Bullsburg.
People's Choice, and it
Yes.
moved. It moved to the Grange Fairgrounds.
Okay.
So we went out to that. Um, it was nice. It was big. It seems like they have more space. Maybe it seemed like less viewers because they had less booths because they had more space. But both good events, all successful. And the Phillipsburg Heritage Festival happened last week too. So you can't walk any. Oh, and Gray's, yeah, Gray's Way's Fruit Farm has Art in the Orchard where they had like 60 or 70 different
Oh,
artists there. So you can't go someplace in Center
jeez.
County last week and not hit a festival. So
Um, there's one in Frederick. It's usually like one of the first weekends in June, and they set up along the creek, and it's definitely not to the scale of like the Central Pennsylvania Festival of the Arts. It's not to that scale, but it's nice, and we usually buy a couple, one or at least walk out with one or two things
yeah, you
from
got it, right? Yeah,
so yeah. All right,
nice.
all right. That's this week's podcast. Okay. Housekeeping this week. I'm going to write tonight. I have decided that I'm going to sit here and I'm going to write just because I'm tired of looking at that picture. It's the main reason for writing. Second thing we're going to do this week. Probably Wednesday. I need to double check my days. Probably Wednesday, maybe Thursday. We will release our survey. So we will send out the survey. It's the media survey. A lot of you took part in it. I'm gonna kind of add some questions, maybe remove a question or two. We certainly got to update the roster of beat writers as well. But
Mhm.
please take 2 minutes to fill it out. It does not take long. A lot of people enjoy it. It's a lot very interesting. Um, it also just helps our blog out because it helps amplify our voice. So that would be very helpful. Um, anything from you this week, Mr. Stampsel? No.
No, one week closer to football season.
Okay.
No, I didn't write the hockey with the
It's
football
all right.
team because it's okay because we're too close now at
Yeah,
this point.
no, you're good.
So
Well, and then next weekend's media days. Is it Wednesday?
the
I
third
believe?
is the third is a Saturday, I
No,
think.
no, no. Big Ten media days, right?
Yes, Tuesday,
Third.
Wednesday. It's like 3 days. It's like three or
Yeah,
4 days.
yeah.
And Stuff Summers podcast was credentialed. Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to make the trip
We are not. Again,
because the people that we want to see aren't going to be there.
yeah.
Like the media types from NBC and whatever else, and the actual PR people. But one step more towards respect for the Stuff
Hey,
Summer Says podcast. So there we
we're
go.
growing, Steve. We're growing.
And just then the guests the next 3 weeks.
We are busy. We are booked.
It's a good set that nobody else has. So
Quite
if
literally
you're not
booked.
listening, or tell your friends listen. We got good stuff.
All right. Let's get out of here. Podcast. It's called Stuff Summer Says with
Steve.
Steve. Email is website is stuffsummersays.com. On that website, there's a section called with.
Steve.
Email is Darian at stuffsummersays.com. Steve's is
Steve at stuffsummersays.com.
Twitter handles are. Mine is not ours. Mine. Darian Summers is at Stuff Summers Says. Steve's is.
At Steve Samsel.
Look at that. We're professionals. Goodbye.